Alright, so today we're going to take this viewport mapping code and we're going to figure out how can we convert or abstract this logic here to render a tile map. The basic concept we're going to go with is this big area right here could be like a very large tile map, and every single pixel within this viewport region could be a tile value. And then over here, this could be like a viewport that's rendering the tiles each bigger than 1 pixel. One of the things we want to do is we want to get that logic kind of working, what we want to do is we want to get the data, so the data in this viewport, we want to get this off screen somewhere, right? And we will only want to render one viewport to the screen. So we're abstracting the problem as we have a source viewport that is looking over a data set, and then we have a destination viewport that is pasting the values to the screen. When we want to zoom in and out on the world, what we would do is we would take the source viewport, that's the viewport that is looking over the data set, and we could like expand and contract that viewport, but we keep the destination viewport the same, right? Like when you play a video game, the viewport size isn't constantly changing on you, right? But obviously you can move around the world and whatnot, and in some tile-based games you can zoom in and out. Well, all that trickery is being done with the source viewport, the viewport that's looking over the data, right? Like when you're moving through the world, the viewport is kind of like scrolling through the data, or it's translating through the data. And when you are zooming in and out on something, that viewport is kind of like shrinking and stretching, right? I don't know if that explanation makes sense. I've never been the best at explaining things. But that's why we're going to try to write some code and get this working. Before we do that, I have something I really need to take notes of really quick. So on my right monitor, I'm just going to make a note of this countdown timer URL, and I'm just going to paste that into my shortcut, so next time I want a countdown timer that loops, I can find it easily. Countdown timer loop. Okay, so now that I have that out of the way, we're going to go over to my left monitor, and this is the code from yesterday. The rectangle mapping code, right? So this diagram will probably look familiar to you if you've looked at some of the previous code I've written. We're just going to scroll through this really quick. I don't expect you to get all of this. I can't read this fast. But we just want to like scroll through it really quick to get a feel for what we wrote yesterday. We can kind of grab our bearings. Okay, so it's not too much code. And we got to think about, okay, how are we going to change this code around to turn it into something that is abstracted in a tile map kind of sense. And how can we reuse it as much as possible? So the first thought is, we're not even gonna, we don't need to create a tile map, right? We can just use all of these pixel colors as tiles, right? And that kind of abstract thinking will make it just, by the end of being done with this, it'll just look like we're zooming over a image very close to it in real time. That's probably what we're gonna get at the end of this. But from there, it'll be pretty easy to abstract it into tile rendering logic. But right now, we just want to pretend that each pixel in this big image right here, this big circle, is our big donut. Each pixel in this big donut is a tile. Okay, with that, I think what I want to do is I want to take all of this code that we've already written, and I want to make like another snippet. Because I still see, I still like having little snippets of working code that I can work off of and do things with later. So what do I want to name this? So we're gonna abstract it. So what would it be called? I guess now one of the viewports is off screen. So I guess it's rendering from a off-screen viewport is kind of what we're doing. Or sampling from an off-screen viewport, right? That's kind of what we're doing. Yeah, so sampling from an off-screen viewport. I don't have any, like, quick abbreviation for that. Maybe I'll come up with something later. Sampling from an off-screen viewport. That's what we'll call it for now. Actually, you know what? And it's not going to be a Stack... well, I guess we could still post this as an addendum to Stack Overflow because it's still related to the question I've been answering on Stack Overflow. We could just keep on... I could keep on adding to that Stack Overflow post until it's fucking gigantic. I mean, that would be kind of amusing. Okay, let's do that. What do we call it? I'm just going to call it SAM view for sampler view. Or we could call it buffer view, right? Because it's the idea is that the buffer is kind of like a bitmap that's off screen. We could call it buffer view. Buffer sampler. Buffer view. Okay, I'm going to call it buffer view. I don't know. And I'm going to abbreviate it. And oh, wait, you can't even see that. It doesn't matter, I'm just kind of like saving the file right now. We'll call this copy buffer view .htm and then language. Okay, so we just kind of made a copy of our source code from yesterday, and I'll just call that buffer view.htm. Close this, and we just want to get the file path, and then we're going to paste that into our browser, and you know we're expecting to see the exact same thing. Yep, no changes. Okay, so we have something to work off of now. Before I continue though, I want to make a note of this in my scripts, just so that if I want to come back to this in a few years, I know where it was. So I'll just say, I don't know, buffer view code, buffer view JS, right? And then we'll just say edit file. And then we can also have some suggestions up here, like buffer sampler, and then you can just say try. Right, just some tips there, and then I think that eventually when we start to refactor code and chop it up into smaller pieces, you know, multiple files, I think I'm probably going to have some type of object called the buffer view. I don't know. Buffer view variable name, and then I'm just going to say and then and I just realized you can't see what I'm typing, so I really need to work on that. What am I gonna do? How am I gonna fix that problem? Oh. All right, I'm gonna figure out how to fix that problem of I need to put like a little veil um, over my monitor where you can't see it. So as I'm typing, I stop writing things that you can't see on screen because I've been doing that a lot. I kind of solved it on my other monitor, and I'm going to try to solve it on this one, and then I'll be back.